Okay, so hey everyone. So this is Trish again, and I'm about to attempt another coloring project. And this time around, I'm going to work in a book called Floribunda, and this is by the artist Leila Duly. And it is a very, very intricate book, so this will take a lot of time. So this coloring video will, of course, again be done in multiple parts, so hopefully you guys can stick around and follow me along. So the page that I have chosen, well, it doesn't really have page numbers, so I am just going to show you what the bottom of the page looks like, because Leila Duly has generously, and it helps us out a lot too, has placed the names of each of the flowers that are on that specific page to color. So this is the page we're going to be coloring, so hopefully you guys can get your page out and then we can start working on it. So let me see if I can go ahead and get my camera adjusted so we can get started on whichever one we're going to color. I know I've got quite a bit of a mess going on here, and I'm just going to try to zoom on in on which one we're going to get started with. So I am going to be using, of course, my Prismacolor Premier pencils, and I'm kind of just going to be just working along here. So there's going to be times that I'm going to be quiet, and so just hopefully you guys can just follow along. If you guys hear any background noises, that is just my animals just being animals. Especially my cat. He likes to kind of cause a ruckus every now and again. So like I said, this is going to be done in multiple parts, and I think we're going to go ahead and work on this area here. Okay, so I think I've got that area pretty zoomed in, so hopefully you guys can follow me along. And let's get started. So I've actually tried to pick out some colors for this time around. I had a vision of blue for these flowers right here. So we're gonna work with some blue hues in here. And the four colors so far that I have chosen to work with is going to be the PC 1087, which is, oops, it's not going to stay. It's just a powder blue. I'm going to use that for my base color just to lie down. And then I'm going to be using this PC 208. And let's see how to even pronounce that. Indanthrone blue. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the PC 208. Me working on with that one. And thirdly, I'll be also using violet blue, which is PC 933. Okay. And then I'm also going to use indigo blue, PC 901, and that's going to be my darkest color. And let's see. And then later on, I'm thinking, for some certain highlights and some light areas, I might be using sky blue light, which is PC 1086. Okay. And then, of course, for any extra highlights that I want and some for blending capabilities, I'm going to be using my poor little guys here that they're running out of life, my white Prismacolor pencil, the PC 938, and the nameless. You've just got Prismacolor written on there, and that's my colorless blender. So those are pretty much the tools that we will be working with today. So let's go ahead and get started. And what I'm going to do basically is just go ahead and fill out all these flowers. I'm just going to go ahead and fill it in with this powder blue, the PC 1087, okay? And I'm just going to scribble on in and just using a very light pressure, just filling in every part of the flower. And I'm not really concerned with having everything even right now. It's a very, very light color, so it's most likely not going to be showing up in your screen, or on your screen, should I say. Like I said, it's just going to be very, very light, but I'm just using this as a base color. This is an extra layer to give my flower some depth. And as you can, like I said, you can hear my cat. He's in the background. I have paid attention to him already all morning today. It took me a little bit to get started today because my cat is a very, he likes a lot of attention. So I have to pay him attention, give him his treats, play with him for a little bit. You know, he has this little fishing pole chaser thingamajiggy that I use so he can get some of his energy out. But sometimes that's not enough. Just like now, he's like getting into everything, trying to open cabinets, pulling things down. I said, he's just like a 2-year-old toddler. And yes, I would know. I raised 4 boys. So, like I said, as I'm just blabbing along here, all I'm doing is just using the powder blue to just go over this flower and just give it a bit of a base color. Just lightly going in, using my circular strokes. If I run out of things to say and I'm just quiet, just forgive me on that. And sometimes I can just be just kind of like concentrating on what I'm doing. I mean, like I said, this book by Leila Duly is very intricate to me, and it can be quite intimidating. And some of the parts are hard to distinguish sometimes of where like a leaf or a flower may start and may end. So sometimes I do have to go back and look at the piece even when I'm all done to see if there's any parts that I might have missed or have made a mistake on, and then attempt to correct my mistakes. So I'm just continuing on, just putting on that base layer. And as you can see, I'm not really like going in one petal at a time. It's like right now, especially with this powder blue color, it is very light. Very, very light. So it's not even going to affect the black line art on the page. And all of this will work out later on. I mean, with all the layers that we'll end up using, you know, all the different colors that we'll end up using on this piece will all come together later on. And mind you that I am no professional. I have no art, you know, art class training. I didn't go to any of that. This is pretty much, I'm a hobbyist, and this is just something that I do for my own joy. And me making my videos is just a way for me to interact and to share my colorings with anybody who's interested in watching my channel, and hoping that there are some that may be able to pick up some tricks, some tips. Everybody has their own way and their own coloring techniques. So some of my ways may be confusing to some. So it all just depends on the person. So, like I said, this powder blue is very, very light color because I'm also using a very, very light, just light pressure, just using my circular strokes here. If you see me pulling away every now and again from the camera, that just pretty much is saying that it's time to sharpen my pencil. So I'm just taking a few seconds just to give it a sharpened tip. Like I said, I'm just kind of adding a base color on here. You can probably see the color more like I can see like in person versus what you guys are seeing on camera. So you guys will definitely know the difference if you guys are following along with each of the colors that I'm using. And this is just the way I color. There is no right or wrong. It's just the way that I choose to interpret it. Okay, so I've got my powder blue laid down. And what I'm going to use next is the PC208. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Indian Blue. It's the PC208, and I am just gonna go ahead and for this, these areas right here, I'm not even sure which flower this is. Sorry to those that like flowers, but as much as I love flowers, I do not know them um, by name and by look. So I do have to kind of look it up, but I'm not going to look at it right now. So I'm not sure what this flower is. But for right now, I'm just going to use my PC208 and I'm just going to randomly add colors in here and then I will blend it out later. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and just add, it's kind of like still some pretty light pressure, a little bit more pressure than when adding the powder blue like I did earlier. And just kind of just not really being precise on how much I'm going to put really. I'm just kind of adding color randomly. I know it's really hard to see with, with the camera angle and with as much detail as this book has. So you guys are like, like I have done many of times when I was watching other YouTube videos out there. I have paused many of times if I really wanted to see what the person was doing and just kind of study it from there and follow along. So like I said, I'm just using some of this PC208 Endomethium something. Indian Indian throne. God, I kept wanting to say Endomethian. I don't even know if that's a word. But just kind of adding this color in and just pretty much just filling in random areas. I don't know how long this video is going to take. I might think about time-lapsing it just a tad bit later on once I, get to uploading it, just so that you guys don't have to suffer through the long process of it. I'm not quite sure yet, so but I guess I'll figure that out once I'm actually in the editing process. Okay. So like I said, I'm just going to be sitting here coloring so you guys can just, sit back, watch, or pause and continue to do what I'm doing. It all depends on, how you decide you want to follow along. And if I get quiet, that's just because I'm just trying to pay attention. And any background noise you guys hear, yeah, it's my lovely animals. still continuing. I mean, with all of my colorings, is I always use circular strokes. I mean, some areas are a little bit tight and smaller to get into, so there are times when it's not possible to use the circular strokes, and that is okay. And I just like to use light layers because it's so much easier to, add the layers in slowly than to go all in and use heavy hand pressure, and that not being able to correct your work or ruining the tooth of the paper, because that's what happens when you use a lot of pressure with your hands and your pencils and pressing down on the paper. Yes, we do want to, and we do want to cover up the white part of the paper that shows up, from underneath our color. But, and I mean, and different people, like I said, different people have their own techniques. And I just like to layer my colors and add on colors. And then when I'm pretty satisfied with what I've done, or I feel like I cannot, add any more color, then, and I know that there's still some white parts of the background of the paper showing up. Usually blending all the final blending process usually does it for me. And also using, I found that using a blending pencil also helps with making all your colors just come together. And it actually, believe it or not, it actually intensifies the color, all the layers of color that you have applied onto your paper. Like I said, there's a lot of detail in this book, so it's harder to explain and to see exactly what I'm doing. But like I said, I'm just randomly just placing color, splash of color here and there. Let's see. And then I just kind of work with it. I just add my layers of colors randomly, and then I'll just work with it. And then figure out later on, if I want a lighter effect here, a darker effect there. There is really no rhyme or reason, with some real intricate books like this book is. It sure makes for a busy day. And if you're like me that doesn't really rush through coloring, it can actually take a couple of days. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking around to see where I would like to add some color. I mean, you're looking at it from the camera view, and you're watching, and you're just like, where the heck is she putting that color? What the heck is she doing? Like I said, it's just kind of random. I mean, any areas that I think I would want color and work with the blending later, I'm just kind of just doing that. I don't know, for some reason it works. I mean, that's how I did my first piece in this book. And that was something I really didn't even think about. I just kind of just went with whatever, and I did that over course of a couple of days. And this was me sitting, sitting pretty much on my bed while I was watching TV. I don't know if I have that page readily available right now to show you, but I don't think I do. I think it's in my one of my folders. I do actually do take out the pages that I finish, and I have like a binder or a folder, um, depending on the size of the paper that I use to color, and I just keep them in there for later. Don't know what I'll quite do with all the finished pages that I've colored. I've heard a lot of great ideas, like giving them to patients in hospitals, use them as gifts, make bookmarks out of them, and I just haven't quite decided what I'm gonna do. Okay, so like I said, just adding some light colors in here. Light base, because like I said, you've seen all the colors that I'm going to use, so I'm going to be layering other colors in here as well. So the further along we get into this, you're going to see all the layers of color build up, and then I'll be blending and then just kind of working on that. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a very hard, quite a hard video to follow, I would have to say. So those that are sticking through it, well, thank you and good job. Okay. So, like I said, if you're having issues with seeing exactly where I filled in some colors and stuff like that, just pause the video and just study the paused image on your screen, and you guys will be able to pretty much decipher as to where I have added color. And like I said, I've done that many of times, especially when there's you know, those very, very fast speed coloring videos. I don't necessarily like those because I like to be able to follow along as you know, if I want to go and learn different techniques, or seeing if I can recreate another colorist's work. It doesn't, you know, so I don't really like the speed coloring so much because I can't really follow. Like I said, I'm just a hobbyist and just something that I love to do. Who knows, this page might not even turn out so great. Yes, I am leaving some parts of the flowers uncolored, untouched, because I want to kind of use those areas later on. It's part of, like, you know, my lightened areas, my highlights and stuff like that, where you'll see me later on towards the end, you know, after I've blended, kind of use those areas as just a highlight area. I'll blend whites and a lighter sky light blue into that. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's already March. Can you believe that? Tomorrow is my fiance's 41st birthday. Well, yay, I know we're not going to be able to do much of anything, Well, because one, he works and he usually doesn't get home until later on in the evening. It all just depends. It's not a very good month for us, let's put it that way. I mean, I know we're you know, this is a social media website, whatever, YouTube and stuff, but I mean, I am an open book and I am glad to share my stories, life history, and everything with everybody. If you don't want to hear it, you can always just tune it out. But yeah, this month is not a very good month for us. And the reason for that, besides all of our birthdays, there's been some tragedies, very bad tragedies. Last year, my fiance's 13-year-old son, who he was born with he was born with, you know, with some issues. He had a congenital hernia, and he ended up having to go to the hospital last year and had a bowel obstruction apparently. I mean, he was doing well. He was about to turn, I think he was about to turn 13. And we were living in Las Vegas at that time. And, well, the hospital visit ended up into him passing away. And he passed away the day before his birthday. So he was supposed to turn, I believe, 12 or 13 on March 13th of last year, and he passed away March 12th. And like I said, we were in Vegas at that time, and we haven't moved here to Arkansas yet, where his you know, his son and his ex-wife live. So he had to make emergency visits, you know, emergency trip over here. I couldn't go because we couldn't afford the cost of the ticket, but that's okay. I mean, as much as I wanted to be there for him, it wasn't possible because of the, you know, the funding issues. So there's that, and then we have so many March birthdays coming up. Like I said, my fiance's birthday's tomorrow, March 8th. His son's birthday was March 13th, so it's coming up soon too. He was buried on my birthday, which is more on March 18th. I'll be turning 42. And yeah, so he was buried March 18th. And the day after that is also my fiance's my fiance's father's, you know, my soon to be father-in-law's birthday. So a lot of tragedy. And in my life, the father of my, you know, my two oldest sons, we had the same birthday. Our birthdays were both on March 18th. And he passed away in 2006, March 27th, due to diabetes complications. He was an undiagnosed diabetic. So he passed away, and I don't know why, but but since, you know, me and my two oldest sons' father had the same birthdays, and I was trying to ease the pain of the children, you know, the boys at that time, because, you know, once, you know, my birthday came along, it was also a reminder for them that it was would have been also their father's birthday. I kind of just put my birthday on the back burner since then. I really don't pay attention much to my birthdays anymore. And that was just my way of trying to protect, you know, the kids and stuff like that. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's just the way I figured that out. And also, this month is my mother's birthday, towards the end of the month. And unfortunately, she also passed away last year. She was fairly young. She was only in her 50s, mid 50s. It was a sudden death. And on all actual truth, it was actually a suicide. So, and that was due to life issues and chronic pain that for some reason we all seem to, me and my sisters, you know, pretty much the females on my mom's side of the family seem to all suffer from chronic pain and all that stuff, anxiety, just life issues. Yeah, so it's just been a hard hard time, but we just try to keep our heads up and just try to keep going. Okay, so let's see here. So hopefully you guys are following along to see what I'm doing. Hopefully the camera is staying in focus so you guys can see what I'm doing. Maybe I need to zoom it in a little bit more. I don't know. It's kind of hard with the way that my camera stuff is set up. Let's see if that would be better for you guys. That might be a little better. Okay, that might be a little better right there. Whoop. I need to find my sharpener so I can sharpen my pencil here. So like I said, this picture is detailed. It will take a while, and I'm sorry that I kind of moved my camera along there. I know, it looks like a big old mess right now in a big, you know, pile of just color just randomly placed, and that's pretty much just how I myself go about, you know, coloring images like this, especially with flowers. And since this is such an intricate book, and I want to give it justice, I try the best that I can. I just try the best that I can to work on it the best way that I know how without messing it up. I really hate when I can't do an artist's line work justice. And this is one of those books that, with the pages, you know, because of the size of it, that, you know, I don't have the capability unless I take it probably maybe to, you know, Office Depot or Kinko's or whatnot to get it copied for me, but my printer does not have the capability of printing out these sizes of paper. It is, Floribunda is one of those books, as if you have the book, of course, if you're following along, that is just like the Johanna Basford's artist edition books. You know, the pretty big size. Okay, she can, like I said, you guys are noticing I'm not being very precise of making sure that I've got every other, every area of the flower colored. I'm just using my second color, the PC208 to Indian Throne Blue, just to kind of add that layer of color in there. And then we will work with that more later on as we continue on with the layers. You know what sucks though is like yesterday I actually started another page off of this book that I was intending to use for a tutorial as well. And I got through it all. I got through the first flower and everything. And then I attempted to edit it. I tried to transfer the file over to the Windows Movie Maker program, and that's a free program. And yeah, that's all I'm working with right now as far as editing my videos and uploading it to YouTube. And for some reason, I mean, it's the same program that I use in the same ways like I usually do my videos and upload and edit and all that stuff. It just kept giving me an error, and yeah, it just wouldn't process the video. So I totally had to abandon that one and start a new tutorial. I don't know what happened with that. I don't know if there was some miscommunication with the files of transferring the files over, and I've tried it multiple times and tried to use the little techie skills that I had in converting files, and it just didn't want to work at all. So I just said, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to redo and start fresh from another page in the book. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. That's, to be honest. I mean, sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes it's no fault of our own. It just happens. And I was looking at a lot of, the video editing software that are available out there right now that you pay for, and whoa, the prices on those sometimes are pretty out there. Pretty expensive. I think the cheapest one that I've seen was a video editing software called Camtasia, and that alone was $200. So I was just like, yeah, no, maybe later. Gotta save my pretty little pennies, and maybe later, but not at this time. So I'm gonna have to stick with my usual method here for now. And hopefully at least it's helping you folks out there that watch my videos. At least, as long as I'm getting videos out to you that matter, then that's what matters to me. I'm just trying to work in the best angle. You see me probably switching angles and stuff like that with my coloring. It's just I'm just trying to work around the camera so I'm not bumping into it. So it doesn't mess with your guys's vision there. And that's a great thing about using circular strokes is I can come in at any different angle and the directional lines are pretty much, non-existent if any at all. If there is any directional line showing through, it's very minimal and easily hidden through blending and whatnot. Got these little tiny bit of areas right here that I think I'm just going to go ahead and color all in, since those are tiny little areas that if I were to look at a flower in a painting or in real life, I would expect to see, a darken in because it's hidden and tucked away. So I'm just going to go ahead and color that all in there. Okay. Alrighty. Still got a little whiles to go on this. I feel like I need some extra coffee or something today. I'm just wanting to yawn and yawn and yawn. It's also another gloomy day here today. We had a some pretty bad rain last night. I had some of my some of my friends lose some power in certain areas. So, and it was a good thing that it happened, in our area here, that it started pouring down um, pretty close to midnight last night. So, I mean, we were already tucked away in bed, and we were just watching Netflix, until we fell asleep. And if the power did go out on us, then we would have just slept it off and just hoped that it would have came on by the time my fiance had to get up and get ready for work. But so far, the ones that have lost power have their power restored, so that's a good thing. I know it really does suck when people lose their powers due to Mother Nature, but it does happen. As long as I've got some lighting some sufficient lighting in my coloring books, I think I will be fine. Okay, so just continuing on. Like I said, I'm just coloring along as I'm randomly chatting with you guys and just showing you guys my how I just go about tackling this book. And one thing, like I said, I probably mentioned to this to you guys earlier, but this book is so intricate. There's lots of leaves and flowers and all that stuff tucked away in here that sometimes it is a bit difficult to tell which, if a flower, if one part of the image is still a flower or is it part of the leaf or whatnot. And and like I said, I end up having just to go back and take a look. Usually happens towards the end when I'm almost done with my coloring piece, but sometimes it does happen too while I'm coloring along and I probably moved on to a different part of the image, and then I notice that, hey, oh, that's supposed to be part of the leaf or the flower or whatnot. And I'll just go back in and fix it and just make it right. So it's no big deal. You don't have to worry about, during the beginning parts of trying to find out everything, just to figure out what is what. I just kind of just worry about that later on because once you get all the colors in there, it might be as, more noticeable to you, or it might not even be noticeable at all, that it won't really even matter. So, I with my, I have a tad bit of OCD, so if I see something like that, I'll end up going back in and trying to make it right. So that's all depending on your own personality and how you wish to approach that. But I am definitely feeling the need to make another cup of coffee today. I might have to end up taking a break here soon. Just pause the video just enough time to go make me a cup of coffee and come back in. It's just one of those perfect gloomy, days where it's kind of off and off sprinkling that it's all you want to do is stay in your PJs and just cuddle up and either cuddle up with somebody if you have that somebody, or cuddle up with your pets, or just cuddle up under your blankets and just watch TV kind of thing and veg out. That's what kind of day it feels like to me. Just moving along here with any parts that I want to get that color in. Like I said, sometimes, like these little areas that I'm leaving white, I mean, I might change my mind later. It all depends on how it goes after I end up adding on all my colors that I wanted to use and layering colors. And and sometimes I'll use, like when I'm using like my blending pencil or my white pencil, I'll actually just use the pigment that I have picked up using the blending pencil and add it on, and just drag it along those areas that I have left, white without, or, left really light. And that kind of serves also as my highlighted part with just a tinge of color. And it actually has worked pretty well. A lot of my coloring has been a lot, experimental, very experimental. And sometimes things work and sometimes it doesn't. And that's just the fun part of playing with colors. So yeah, so just in case you guys are wondering why is my mom not coloring some of the parts there, and that is why. And then I have this little area here where it's a fold. I can tell that it's a fold of a flower. It's folding over on top. So I'm just gonna go ahead and color that one in, and then continue along with the bigger part of that petal. Like I said, I'm just filling in the light layers of the petals. And with these bigger petals, I'm just kind of, stopping at a certain point. It's my own preference. It all depends on your preference on how far up you want to start, because it depends on how much, how much pressure you're going to use when you're laying down your colors, because once you start blending all the colors in together, all those colors are going to drag out, they're going to blend together, they're going to drag out. And if you want a highlighted area, those areas that were left, without the darker shades of blue will end up tinged with color. So, once you get your blending going, like I said, it serves as a highlighted area. And it all just depends. I mean, I could very well change my course here, and when I get into the blending, I'll be like, yeah, it doesn't quite look right, but just leaving it lighter than that, and then I'll just work around it and figure it out from there. Okay, so I'm looking at this flower right now. Like I was saying earlier, I'm not quite sure which where ends with what. So these two areas I'm not quite sure yet, so I'm gonna leave those areas alone for now. I'll come back later on, and as I continue to work with this flower, and just kind of determine if that's part of the flower or not. I can't quite tell just by looking at it as it is, but I know this part is, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue with adding my PC208 onto this petal here. Got to go in between the other flowers that are covering up the full petal here. Probably add a little bit more. Okay, let's see. I still haven't quite figured out this part yet. Like I said, I'll probably just figure that out later on if it comes about and it turns out to be part of flower. So yeah, if you run into that issue, like I said, just don't worry about it really. too much about it right now, and you can always come back later on and fix that. So now we're going to go and get started on adding in our next hue, and that is going to be our violet blue. So we're going to be using this one and just kind of going over all the areas that we colored and just see where we need to add color. Okay, so now we got our violet blue. I did pause the video so that I could make myself a fresh cup of coffee, and hopefully that will give me a little bit of a jolt. I guess I'm just a little bit more tired than I anticipated or thought I was when I first got up this morning. But that is totally okay. Nothing that a little bit of coffee won't fix. So as you can see, just wanted to give you a little, see, I'm just kind of adding on this violet blue onto the areas that I previously colored. Just layering it over it. Kind of just bringing different shades together. And I'll be doing that for all the areas of this picture. Okay, so I'll go back in and start here in the middle and just kind of darken in those areas that I colored in previously. I got some of that wood casing from the Prismacolors kind of just like falling off onto my page there. Oop, and I've got a pencil roll away. Go figure. Okay. So just coming on in and just going in and adding my violet blue to all the areas that I previously colored in, just to deepen up the shade and to give my paper more pigment to drag around later on when I go in with blending. My little Chewini and my cat have woken up from their little nap, and they're kind of like wrestling around on in between the carpet and the wooden floor. So they're making their little noises. Like I said, I'm just, this all I'm doing. I just took a quick glance at my window outside, and it looks like the sun is trying to take a peek out. That might be good. Hopefully it will do that. Just makes it pretty to look at. It's very hard for me to stay out and a lot of sun though, you know, because I do have lupus and stuff, so it kind of, I mean, I do have that photosensitivity issue where too much of the UV rays that hit my skin and I'll break out in rashes and whatnot, and my skin just turns, you know, instantaneously red. So I can only, you know, even with sunscreen, I have to be really careful of how much time I spend in the sun. So I really rarely do leave my house, and most of the time it's like quick trips to the store, and it's usually during the evening times or to doctor's appointments, and it's kind of like, you know, since I'm going to be in a vehicle, I mean, it's okay. I still have to protect my skin, of course, from any sun that is peeking through the window. So I usually have to keep something over, if I'm sitting in, sitting in the passenger side or whatnot. Kind of have to keep like, a sweater or some kind of cloth or something close by so I can protect my skin, because it's just so weird. It's just something that, I just get used to it, and it's kind of just ends up being a common thing for me. Oh, and I just noticed over here that I did not add any of that PC208. So I now I'm going to go back in. So this is the part that I was saying earlier. Sometimes you'll miss parts and you won't even notice it until either you're done or you're finished. So I just noticed that I missed parts of adding in the PC208. So I'm just quickly going over that just to make sure I add that hue in. Waiting for my coffee over here on the side to just cool down a bit to where I can sip on it. I can smell my flavored creamer through it. I'm using the International Delight buttercream, butter pecan. I'm sorry, not buttercream, butter pecan. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and add some of that over here. And this is just like I said, like I was mentioning earlier, you might have to end up going back in and fixing when you miss something, just because of the intricate work. And there we go. So I think I got that covered. If I find any more later on, then I'll just go ahead and add that in. So I'm just going to continue along here and just keep coloring. I really do like the paper of this book, just because it's just so sturdy and it handles all types of medium very well. Especially with colored pencils, you can layer and layer and layer. And it does a wonderful job. I mean, even with markers and gel pens and paint, acrylic paint, watercolors, and stuff like that, it actually has held up very well, and there has been no bleed through. Yeah, we all say, as colorists, that we wish that all books would be, this kind of, quality of paper, but at the same time, imagine what it would cost for, the artist to publish those books, and then the cost would be passed to us colorists, and then, there's a number of us that can't quite afford, expensive books. So we just do what we can. But it would just be nice if it was just something that was a standard, and it wouldn't that cost that much to buy. So I'm still leaving those areas that I left previously uncolored with the darker shades of blue that I'm using. Everything is covered with the powder blue, and it's very, very faint and light. So it's barely noticeable, should I say. Very, very noticeable. Very, very unnoticeable. Okay, there you go. That's the correct word. Come on, Trish, get with your words. Find your words today. That's just me rambling on to myself. And as you notice, I'm not really like sticking with one area too, and I kind of like move around a lot. And I tend to do that with like intricate patterns like this, intricate drawings like this, because I guess that's just the way that my brain works. And sometimes I'll manage to stick in one area, and then a little bit later on, I'll see like, oh, that needs color, and then I'll go. So I just kind of just jump around and just eyeball everything and see if I'm missing any places anywhere. Like I said, every colorist has their own different ways of how they approach their coloring. And I can tell areas that I did not use a new color in, just because I can tell by the hue and the lightness, and knowing that because knowing that I've used light layers throughout, I can just tell that I have not gone over that part yet. And of course, with intricate details like this and drawings and line art, you would probably end up finding yourself sharpening your pencil a little bit more frequently than if you were working in, like, say, regular coloring books where, there's enough area. But there are certain books, just like this one, that have little tiny intricate areas, and you're trying to stay in between the lines, and you'll end up finding yourself sharpening your pencil a lot. So that would be now for me. I would have to sharpen my pencil a little bit because I'm noticing that my tip is getting a little dull there. So I'm just sharpening away. Okay. And then also I took a sip of my coffee, so yay. And here I go back in, just adding that color in. Okay, so I think this petal is pretty much done. I know I got quiet on you guys there for a little while. I was just trying to concentrate on getting that color on there, sharpening up my pencil once again, and so I can continue on. Yeah, it does look like a mess right now, but just believe me when I tell you that it will all work out in the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on and just adding my colors in. Like I said, anytime that you guys feel like you need to pause so you guys can see exactly, what I'm doing, or need to study the image on your screen as to, you know, what I have done, you can do that. And I'm just like randomly just adding on the violet blue over my, what was that color again? That Indian Throne. I don't think I'm ever gonna remember the name of that one, but all I know it's PC208. That much I can remember. Indian Throne blue. Yeah, so I'm just layering over that violet blue. Just adding that color in, so just going over every piece that I have laid over the Indian Throne blue with some of the violet blue. And like I said, yes, it's going to look like a big old mess right now, but believe me, it will all work out in the end once you get all your hues in there, and once we start working on that pressure, using a little bit more medium pressure later on, and it will just work. You guys will see. Yeah, so most of the time I do use my Prismacolor pencils. This set of pencils that I have was sent to me by a good friend, and if it wasn't for her, actually, for her sending me these pencils, I wouldn't have my Prismas. So I do love Prismas because of the blendability factor, and yes, they are, they are a bit pricey. I mean, it's pricey to me. um that's what would consider pricey. I mean, it just depends on, the amount of money that you have available to splurge and stuff. But to me, it is still pricey, but I've noticed that the prices seem to have been going down a bit, so that's a good sign. But like I said, I do like how they blend and they're soft. So they're soft core, wax-based pencils, and I just love the blendability factor of it. My dream pencils that I really want to hopefully one day eventually be able to be a proud owner of are of course, the Faber-Castell Polychromos. And I do have a small set that was also given to me. It's a 12-piece set, and every now and again I'll use them. I just treasure them so much, because they were given to me, and it is a small set, so I only break them out every so often. And I played around with them, and I love them. I just loved how they lay their color down. It's so smooth as well, and I know that if I have them right now, I'd be using them. But then, you can work, you can also work with any type of brand of pencil that you prefer, or what's in your budget. I mean, I still use my Crayolas and my Crazy Arts and all that. I guess it all just depends on what I'm coloring. I mean, like books like this, like like the Floribunda, my Johanna Basfords, um, my Bennett Klein books. It just depends. I will, use my Prismas and stuff like that. And one thing that I actually want to use are, in this book and do a full color on is using the Zig Clean Color Rail Brushes by Kuretake, I think. Yeah, Kuretake. And another friend of mine sent me a 24-piece set for Christmas as a gift. And I love those guys. Oh my gosh, they are just awesome to work with. I mean, it is, it gets kind of hard for me to use because I do have arthritis and shaky hands. So, I mean, it's, the trying to, color with them and be precise with them can be a little intimidating for me. But the effects are awesome. So I just have to take my time a little bit more with them and learn. But I am absolutely also in love with those brush markers. I think I did a review on them, and I just love the effects that it gives. It's so bright, and they're so, especially if you're using the right paper for it. I mean, I've used so far what I have used when I played around with them is the Canson mixed media paper, and it does work to some degree. Um, but I but I feel that for those types of markers also it's best to use actual watercolor paper because it will give you more of the freedom, and you can play with them and blend the colors in more when you're using actual watercolor paper. And yeah, I'm still planning on playing with them more and hopefully being able to do a tutorial or a color along. I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of what videos, I do publish out there, I don't know if I would really consider them tutorials, then I would consider them more like color alongs and just showing you the process that I do and use when I am coloring. I mean, I don't know. I just love being able to, just share my process with you folks and all that good stuff. Like I said, I don't really leave my house often, so this is as much um social, as sad as it sounds. I mean, this is my pretty much, as social as I get. I am really actually very reserved and quiet. I am a hermit, and I feel bad for my fiance sometimes because I'm just like, man, I'm just so boring. I mean, but this is just how I've been. I don't know if it was just because of lifehood experiences, but I've just been very quiet and reserved, and I can actually live in a secluded, area of the world and not really, I would have to say I wouldn't really be bothered. I mean, the only thing that's really stopping me right now from actually just kind of doing that, like, like when you watch those TV shows, living in Alaska or whatnot, the bush people and stuff like that. I mean, I can actually see myself living in a secluded world like that. you know, and just going into town and picking up, the essentials and necessities and having a little farm, and for sustainability, growing your own vegetables. I mean, I used to be able to do that, and I've done that before when I lived in Washington State, and I loved it. I mean, I know that my current health issues prevent me from doing a lot of that now, but I still can totally see myself actually living that way. I mean, I guess there are just some people that are just like that. I mean, I know sometimes it's hard for other people to understand that, but so it is also hard for me to really explain it as well. I mean, like I said, the only thing that's really preventing me from doing that and is, I still have, I have four boys, and they're still trying to figure out their lives, although they don't live with me. They do. One has just recently left for the Air Force boot camp. He's in Texas right now for boot camp. He's 22, so he's starting to venture out and starting pretty much just now starting his adulthood life. And then I have a 19-year-old, oh, actually 20, I'm sorry, geez Louise, 20-year-old that, but no, he's out of high school, he's graduated, he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do. I mean, he's a good kid, I mean, really a good kid, and I mean, he does work, and I mean, he's quiet, he's quiet just like I am. So, yeah, he's like very, very quiet. I mean, and like I said, he's working and still trying to figure out, what he wants to do. He's kind of in a toss up of wanting to do either become a paramedic or a chef. So, and it's kind of funny how that works out because on my dad's side of the family, uh, we're either in the medical field or we're in any type of cooking field. And I love to do both, but I did choose to go into nursing, and I was a nurse until 2014 when I couldn't anymore, when I had to make the choice of not being able to continue nursing anymore. But I do love to cook. But yeah, but so I'm just giving, he's 20 years old. He still has, time to figure things out, but yeah, and he lives in Vegas with the grandparents and stuff like that. So, because that's where he chose to stay at the moment. And I have an 18-year-old who is going to be graduating high school this coming up June, and then he's going to be going to UC San Diego, and he wants to go into aeronautical engineering. And then I have a 15-year-old boy who is still, of course, the lovely teenage, just kind of involved in his sports. He's a football player, and I mean, they're all good kids. I mean, I've been blessed so far with having children that haven't given, that I would have to say I'm very blessed and haven't had the experience of that I just feel bad for some parents that are, I would, that are troubled or have gotten into trouble with school or with the law, or have involved with drugs or alcohol. So I feel very blessed in that part of my life. So yeah, just another tidbit of information about me. Like I said, I mean, I hope it's not bothering you guys when I talk about my personal life. I mean, um I really don't have like, like secrets. I'm pretty much an open book, and I mean, To me, it's I'm hoping that sometimes when when I share my stories like this, that it helps comfort other people. I'm not I'm not trying to, when I tell my stories like this, it's not because I'm trying to gather pity or whatnot. It's just that I'm just hoping that it benefits others to, to talk about, what's bothering them, and to know that they're not alone in what they're experiencing. So, I mean, I guess that would be a different this, this is how like my YouTube channel and my coloring videos are a bit different. I mean, I don't know, or I'm not aware of if there are any coloring, like coloring color alongs and stuff like that, YouTube videos that that the person will talk about and chit chat about their personal life. It almost feels like I should just make a blog, huh? But yeah, and I know I can be kind of random sometimes with the things that I talk about and topics and whatnot, but that's just me. That is just pretty much how it is. And if you guys are wondering why, since I mentioned my children, and you guys are wondering why my children don't stay with me, is well, one of the reasons was because I did divorce my ex-husband, the father of my two youngest children, the ones who are 18 and 15, in 2009. That was a pretty messy divorce, and that was you know, we were together for 13 years, married for 9. He was in the military, and that's when we lived back in Washington State. And it was a pretty messy divorce and stuff like that. And let me see, how can I explain this? And it's like, yeah, it's like I did win the whole custody battle. You know, I did win the whole divorce and everything like that. Um, and I mean, everything was pretty much, awarded to me and stuff like that. But then, so I had my kids and everything like that. And he proceeded to move on to California with his now new wife. Um, but as my health started really declining after that, and then my and of course losing an income, and I was just kind of a single mother for a few years there. And as my health got worse, um I wasn't able to provide the same lifestyle that my children were accustomed to, growing up and stuff. So you know I gave them pretty much an option. And I didn't want them to be dragged along with my shortcomings, and I wanted them to be taken care of and provided for the way that they need to be. So that's when the grandparents have stepped in and helped me out. And so they have been staying with their grandparents for a little bit now. And it is hard. It is one of the hardest decisions a mother, has to make. I mean, I love my children to death, and they're the reasons why I still pretty much, I would have to say, exist. And the reasons why I continue to wake up every day is just thinking of them and just always wishing the best for them. I mean, yes, we talk and stuff like that. We call each other. I see them whenever I can. I mean, it's very hard for me, you know, with with the cost of going there, going and visiting in Vegas all the time. So, but yeah, so I mean, it is very hard. It's just a weird situation, and I guess I mean I'll probably get some negativity towards that decision. But my children do understand, and they know. that I had tried my best, but then, as with health, and I don't, with my health issues, and I don't want them to be burdened with taking care of me and not being able to, do the things that we used to be able to, and me to provide them with the things that they're accustomed to. I didn't want to disrupt their lifestyle. And so that's just, that's just how it is. So, I mean, yeah, it is hard. It is very, very hard for me to deal with sometimes. Um, and, I just make sure that I see them as often as I could. I mean, the grandparents every now and again do help me out with, when visiting and stuff like that, so that I can come and see the kids and visit with them and whatnot. And we write and talk and text and, Facebook and all that stuff. And they understand and they're aware of everything that's going on. And it's just something that, you know, sometimes you have to make some very, very hard choices. And yeah, so that's that. I mean, like I said, I'm an open book and I may talk about, some personal stuff that you guys probably wouldn't even think about sharing with the world, but that's just, I mean, to me, it's like, you know what? I'd rather people know and understand and try, at least try to understand me and get to know me, I guess, get to know me, because I am not one of those that will try to be, pretend or act, to be something that I am not, just so that people will like me. I mean, I am who I am, and um, unfortunately, there are people like me in this world that just have, you know, different things to deal with, and the way I just try to deal with it is just take it day by day, step by step, and just hope and hope and pray for for everything to work out the way that they're supposed to work out. And yes, I have friends and certain coworkers that I've worked with in the nursing field that that helped me out quite a bit, and whatnot. And so there's like a lot of appreciation going on there, much love and stuff. And like I said, it's just very, it's just a very, I guess it's kind of hard. I'm having trouble trying to explain situations and stuff like that on how everything in my life works out. But like I said, all only thing I can do is take it step by step, day by day. Okay. So as I've been chatting along, and you guys, either have tuned me out with my, with my random yapping along, I've just been continuing to just to color on in, and still using that same violet blue, and just going over the previous color that I laid down, that PC 208, which is, I'm gonna try. I can't even, like I said, uh, Indent Throne Blue. Jeez, I will not. I think that is just one of those things that I'll just have to keep trying to remember and say over and over and over me in order for me to remember the name of that color. And just going over and just adding that hue in. And like I said, I'm also using very just light pressure at the time, at this moment. I mean, yes, later on we'll be using a little bit more, you know, more pressure, more like a medium pressure to blend all the colors in together. And you guys will see that everything will just turn out just fine. Okay, let's see. I think I've almost gotten this flower filled in with this blue indanthrone. Is it indanthrone blue? PC208. Actually, you know, with the violet blue, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm using right now. But from all the colors that I used previously, I've got that violet blue layered, just about layered over the indanthrone blue. And then I will be moving on to using my indigo blue to deepen up some more colors in there and adding another layer. I said I'm just changing my angles. You guys seeing changing my angles of how I'm trying to approach going in with my pencil. That's just because so that I'm not blocking the camera vision, your camera view there. Okay, and it looks like I've got a little bit more of this area. I think that would benefit from a little bit more of this violet blue. You know, just as I was, you know, kind of scanning over the flower as I'm coloring, I noticed that one, this area over here could use just a little bit more, just a little bit more pigment. Okay, so that's what I've got so far. And now we can go ahead and move on to using our indigo blue. And so got my indigo blue. That's a PC 901, and I'm going to be doing just the same thing. I'm just going to be adding in color, you know, this indigo blue, deepening up the shades, you know, in this flower and stuff. So I'm just, you know, like I said, you guys just, if you guys just need to pause and take a look at the colors, you know, and where I have added the colors, and then, you know, go ahead and do that. That's the beauty of having pre-recorded videos. You can stop, you know, and pause at any time, and you can rewind, fast forward, yada yada yada. So that's what I'm doing right now. And right now, as you can see, hopefully you guys can tell that I did not fully like color the whole areas of, you know, these parts of the flower in with the indigo blue full. I'm kind of just sticking to like bottom parts of it, you know, just some random bottom parts. And just because, you know, I want to give it a different I guess different depth and some shading in there. And once we go in with blending and stuff like that, it will all work out. And I am using a little bit more medium pressure, by the way. And I'm just, like I said, going in and just kind of sticking to, making the bottom parts, the inner parts of the flower and towards the bottom, and just adding that indigo blue in there. And like I said, I'm using the medium pressure because I want to be able to use that extra pigment that, from the indigo blue to use as part of, the blending process when I start using my blending pencil. And I want to be able to pick up some of that pigment and drag that along into the um, rest of the colors. So I'm still, in the areas that I'm able to get into and do so, I am still using, small circular strokes. I mean, I know there are some areas like here that would be kind of hard, and you kind of just have to try to get your color on there as best as you can. But anywhere that I can, attempt to and, use the circular strokes, I will try. But sometimes I do know and have experienced that there are just some areas that you just can't, like, especially like with certain corners and stuff like that. And what I mean by like the deeper corners and the bottom parts of the flowers, and of each petal, I'm referring to the inner, like the inner parts, and down farther into the parts where it's the darkest and not where I left it, pretty, pretty light, like in these areas right here. I'm just talking about these inner areas, and still leaving some of the previous layers of the um, PC 208 and the Indian Throne. Yep, Indian Throne blue and the violet blue, still a little bit there peeking through. Like I said, it will all work out later once um, all the blending starts. And this is just a way that I, figured out on how to approach this book. I mean, that's just the way, like I said, this is how I approach it. Everyone is going to have a different approach. Every different colorist is going to have a different approach on how they want to lay their colors down. And this is just the way that I do it. And it has been working for me. So I'm hoping that you guys are picking up some, some tips, and at least it's helping you some. And that's pretty much, what I just hope for, is that hopefully if you guys are lost and you guys can watch, come across my videos and we can all be lost together. How about that? I had an original, kind of plan when I was thinking about, doing this video for Floribunda, of using some Staedtler fine liners to, outline the outer areas of flowers and leaves and stuff like that. But as I looked at the pictures, and looked into them further, I kind of decided not to, because there's so much detail And I think, a lot of the areas, if I use the Staedtler fine liners, you, along with, with my coloring, the fine liners would take up a lot more, um, take up a lot more of the space that I wanted to, line. So I just decided just to go ahead and stick with just using the, you know, the colored pencils. I don't know if anybody has attempted to do that before, and I haven't seen yet, but eh, I thought about it and I kind of wanted to go, do that, but then after I kind of, like I said, I studied the book a little bit more, and then it was just like, nah, some areas just won't work. I mean, maybe for the bigger areas it would, but for like little areas, it definitely would make it a tad bit difficult. But like I said, I'm just using some medium pressure, and I'm just going over the areas that I've colored and sticking to the majorly to the bottom parts of, the petals. And that's what I'm going to be pretty much doing for this whole process using my indigo blue. So if I do get quiet, it's just because I'm just kind of, concentrating on those areas and just coloring along. But that's pretty much all. That's what I'm doing, is just using my indigo blue and just with medium pressure going in and adding that darker pigment, and just kind of like looking and trying to pay attention to the areas that I'm trying to target to accomplish this. And I'm not really following any particular order that I am, and coloring, and where I need to go and start and stop, as far as, oh, I need to go here and there and there. I'm just kind of just working my way around and just going, approaching it that way. I mean, you guys can see from, from the start until where we are right now. I'm sure you guys can definitely tell a difference in the way that everything is coming together. And like I said, it's just a process. And, it takes patience, and it's, if you really are wanting your piece to look good, and if you're, I'm not, like I said, I have no professional training whatsoever. So I cannot simply just whip out and a wonderful, piece of, colored piece just like that. I wish I could, and some people are blessed naturally that way, but this is just the way I approach everything. How I, approach, the coloring, my coloring process. So yeah, it's tedious and it takes a lot of time, but it's also, for me, it is a therapeutic, relaxing process, and it's just awesome. I love coloring. I mean, once I actually was able to pick up coloring and getting started on it, I mean that's pretty much, what you will be, what you can find me doing, most of my time. Of course I do, I have other parts of, my life that I need to tend to, like my animals, and there's, some housework that I can, still attempt to do. And, I do like, some light housekeeping and, going to doctor's appointments and whatnot. But if I'm just at home and I mean, I really don't have anything pertinent that needs my immediate attention, I am I'm coloring. So yeah, and it's one way to keep me busy because I've since I was 16, I've always been a busybody running around, in all kinds of, either when I was in high school, on all kinds of groups and sports and stuff like that, and then into my adulthood, working and um, raising my four boys, and was a military wife and all that good stuff. And so now it's like a big change, and I'm having the feeling that it's time for me to sharpen my pencil again. I mean, even though I am, continuing with, rotating, periodically my pencil, since I am using some, the medium pressure here with adding more color in, my tip of my pencil is, gets stubby faster than usual. So just got to sharpen that up a bit. And taking a swig of my now lukewarm coffee. I'm just going to go ahead and give a little bit of color outlining with the indigo blue, some of this, the edges of these petals here, just to give it some sort of definition for later. So it would help with when I'm blending to add some, to add some color that I can drag into the rest of the petal later on. And then when you get into the blending, once we get into the blending process, there still might be some areas that I'll end up going over just because I feel like, oh, I think that that area needs a little bit more, either a little bit in a more darker shade, or, I can definitely enhance the highlight there. So that's all just kind of, like I said, a process that you just learn, and, you know, and just, I don't know. Really don't know how to really fully explain it. But it's just something that I guess, if based on experience, on, on how much you color and how much you work with the piece, and how, with blending and stuff. Like I said, every colorist has their own way of how they approach a approach the line art that they are wanting to color. So this takes, yeah, a lot of time. I do. I am actually, I do have to say, I'm envious of those awesome colorists out there that can whip up pages in like no time at all. It's like, oh my gosh, how do you even do that? I mean, they just must automatically just, see a picture that they want to color and can just auto generate the colors and the process they want to go through and getting that, picture completed. And it's just, it just always amazes me. This always has me in awe. It's like, oh my gosh. But for me, it's not really the whole um, process of trying to spit out as many colored pieces as I can. It's more of the satisfaction of just being able to add some color into, onto, the artist's line work, and bringing that piece alive, and enjoying the process, learning as I go along. And that's just, my take on it. But still, like I said, it always amazes me on how some colorists can just, pop out pages like left and right. And I know that, it also depends, I guess, on different types of medium that, a colorist might use. I mean, some, like, I know, like, the wet mediums like gel pens, acrylic paints, watercolors, markers and such. Yeah, I know that those mediums do lay color down faster, and you can cover a larger area faster. And I mean, yeah, I do actually do like using those mediums too. And there are certain pages that when I take a look at, a certain piece of artwork that a coloring artist has made available to us, that I see, oh yeah, I definitely want to use markers or gel pens on that, and I'll use that. And but it's like, to me, it's like I like the range of being able to use colored pencils, and the ability to really, kind of control the pencils. You get to, add many layers and hues and shades and stuff like that. I mean, and this is just from myself, an amateur, non-professional colorist. That's just, kind of like my take on that. Yep. And I had a phone call earlier from my fiance, and he called me during his lunch break, and I was mentioning to him about the trouble that I, was having with my previous video that I tried making, with the floor, with using, with the Floribunda, with one of the pages from Floribunda and video editing software. And he said he will look into it and see you know, what we can come up with so that I can get that I can get a better, reliable editing software, and hopefully that would help me with my my coloring videos. Bless his heart. I mean, he tries his best to keep me happy because he knows that, it's an adjustment period for me of trying to adjust to, you know, pretty much being at home a lot and usually, just by myself. Because, like I said, he works a lot. So I guess we'll just see how that goes. Okay, I'm just kind of like taking a looky back and seeing what areas I need to add this indigo blue to. And like I said, I am using a bit more of medium pressure with the indigo blue just because I want to be able to use that extra pigment to be able to drag on to the rest of the areas here that I've left light when I go and blend in later on. Yep. Let's see, and I just kind of took a little quick peek again at the whole picture on its own, and I know, yeah. So this page right here has it looks like three different bigger, the big flowers. So I was kind of thinking in my head what kind of colors would I want to use on those that would, kind of go together with everything else that I'm using. And knowing me, I know there's going to be some purple and pink in there. That's kind of like what I always tend um, to lean to when it comes to colors and stuff. And if you guys are interested in finding me on Facebook and friending me, I mean, it is my personal page. I do not have a page dedicated just to, coloring or whatnot. I was thinking about it at one point, but right now I just don't have really the time right now to go through all that. But yeah, I mean, I'll leave my Facebook profile page link in my description box, and if you guys feel like it, you guys can, um, if you guys want to, you can send me a friend request. And like I said, it's my personal page. It's not, you know, no, it's not a page dedicated just to coloring and stuff. So trying to soften up these areas here that I kind of went, just kind of used like, you know, some harsh lines on. So I'm just kind of trying to soften that up a bit and blending, using my indigo blue, just kind of going over them a little bit in a circular motion, just to soften up those edges. Okay, and one thing I also wanted to wanted to make, others aware of, and just in case you didn't know, or anybody else doesn't know or is not, don't do YouTube videos. Um, it does take a lot more time to actually publish a video. It's not as easy as just me sitting here talking to you guys and recording what I'm doing and then just hitting publish. I mean, there's, the recording, and then there's the video editing that you have to do. And depending on your, the type of software you're using, type of computer that you're using, I mean, all that stuff, takes time and different processes. I mean, and then you got to upload it to Facebook, and then you got to do their, whatever, tweaking of, of your video that you need to do there, so it would make it compliant with YouTube. So it does take a little bit of time. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. I mean, I wish it was just as easy as, just kind of recording and then just hit upload. So yeah, that's just one of my little other tidbits of random information. Adding that in there. Okay. I mean, when you're looking at your piece and you're adding all these colors and stuff, and you're adding your darker shade or whatnot, and you're the own, you will have to gauge your own work, and depending on what piece you're looking at, like, like you're looking at this flower, and we're working on this flower right now, you're gonna have to be able to, gauge on which areas you want to, be darker and or lighter and stuff like that. So, I mean, how would you think you would see a piece, like if it was out in the real world? I mean, it's your own interpretation of a piece, pretty much. So I know I went over this piece a little while ago, but I'm feeling that it might need a little bit more touch of that indigo blue. And yes, I think I did mention at the beginning of this video that this is going to be a multi-part process just because it's very intricate and it does take lots of time to work into. It takes a lot of time, lots of time and effort to, to work on these books, which to me I just find relaxing and very, satisfying once, all that work that I'm putting into it is, turns out to look awesome, well, to me anyway, and turns out to be looking pretty good. And so, yeah, it's all worth the effort. Okay. I know I still got these areas over here, so I think I'll finish up this area of this flower so that I can jump on and finish on over there. Mhm. Okay. Feels like it's time to give my pencil a little bit more sharpening. Just feels like it's feeling a little nubby. Oop. Now I go dropping and shaking my camera. Sorry about that. But let's go ahead and continue on. And I'm probably blocking. It's like, no blockage. Try not to block the areas there of your viewing vision. Okay, hopefully I'm not going to block. I'm going to work on this little area of this fold, this petal fold over here. Because it is a little small, little intricate area. Okay. And I'm going to end up having to add a little bit more of this indigo blue in this, this petal here because it is a bigger petal. and I want to be able to drag out that pigment later on during the blending process. Okay. Like I said, it's like sorry if I'm blocking the camera with my big old hand, but just know that's what I'm doing. It's just that I'm just going over with the indigo blue on this bigger petal area right here, and just adding a little bit more extra pigment in there with some medium pressure, just so that I can have that extra, like I said, I have that extra pigment to blend later on with. Go. And then, later on, if I feel that I need just a tad bit more pigment, or if I feel like an area needs, either to be darkened up more or lightened up a bit, then I will work on it using either the blending pencil or the white Prismacolor pencil. So I'll leave that at that for now until I get into the blending process. And then I'm going to work on, let me see if I can get my camera to point up a little bit more that way. So you guys, I'm going to work on these areas here. So I'm just adjusting my camera. Okay. And I'm going to work on these guys here and just doing the same thing. Medium pressure, adding in that indigo blue. And I know there's still a lot of the white marks on the background of the paper, and the tooth of the paper, and that would all be taken care of later once we start blending and all that good stuff. Well, at least the blending process is almost about to, we're about to get to that process soon. I think that's like one of my most favorite parts is, is just after adding all these different colors, it doesn't matter what piece I'm working on, but just after adding on all these different, colors and shades and hues of whichever color, and then I go into the blending process, and just the way, sometimes I never know what I'm really going to get unless it's something that I have previously, done in another, in another coloring project. But I just I think that's one of my favorite parts of the whole coloring and blending process. It's just seeing the effects that come about with, with getting all those colors meshed in together with each other. Trying to get this area right here just a little bit more pigment. And toothier papers, I have you know noticed that a sharp tip of the pencil, a nicely sharpened tip, helps get the colors in there, just a bit more easier, and it tends to take in the pigment from the pencil better once if you have it if you have your colored pencil tip sharpened nicely. Okay, I'm going to go over this area here. So I'm just doing the same thing here. So if my hand is blocking part of the image and the camera, I do apologize, but just letting you know, I'm just doing the same thing, just adding this indigo blue. Okay, I'm just adding more pigment. Okay, let me see. Taking a look back and just checking out to see what I've got so far. I think I want to add just a tad more pigment to this area here. Just a tad bit more. Okay, so that is that so far. And now, okay, so those are all the darker shades that we use. And now I think I'm going to go ahead and use my Skylight Blue, which is this guy right here. And I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and start, blending in and using the Skylight Blue on some of these areas. Starting, to blend. And I'm going to start off with the Skylight Blue to do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get started. And let me see, trying to get into a position here that I don't start knocking the camera all over the place. So let's go ahead and just get started with these little areas right here. So I'm just gonna go in with, like I said, with my sky blue light, and that is the PC 1086. And I'm just gonna go ahead and with like a light medium pressure, just going in ahead and starting to blend everything together. I'm not really taking preference of, going from the darker color to the light color. I'm just using the sky blue light, just to kind of blend everything together and start making all those colors come together. And then, we'll fix whatever needs to be fixing as we go along. Adding more pigment to the layers that we have already laid in there. So this is kind of sort of filling in that, the lighter areas that we have left, uncolored, besides that powder blue from earlier that we used for the base coat. And now we're just trying to, we're beginning to bring all the colors in together. And when you're using that medium pressure and just kind of, getting that color into the lighter parts, you'll notice that it drags out a bit, and that's what we're aiming for, is to drag some of that pigment out. I'm not using a heavy hand just yet. It's just like a medium pressure, just starting in. I'll use more of a heavier hand and a heavier pressure in the next blending process. So just getting the first process going. So that's pretty much what you'll be seeing me doing. And just do this throughout, the whole flower. And just blend together. Like I said, it's not really a heavy hand. It's more like a light medium, light medium pressure. Just kind of starting to bring all those colors together. I know there's still some harsh looking lines in there, they're from the transitions of colors. But once we get into using our blender pencil, we'll be able to take care of most of that. So no worries. And as you notice, again, I'm not really picking and choosing specifically where I want to, which area of the flower that I want to color. I'm just jumping on in and just working on a piece as I see it. As you can tell, I'm not also, as you can tell, I'm also not worried about, going over and just making sure that I'm staying, I'm not, being particular about staying within, the line. See, I can go over each area and not worry about it. And that's because since, I'm starting the blending process, I'm not really worried about all of that. And my intentions are just to bring all the colors together. Just bringing them all together. It's not going to really make a whole big of a difference. It's really not really going to affect anything, especially if you're just, trying to bring all those colors and blending them together and dragging the colors and making all the colors work with one another. Let's see. Then over there. Okay, then come down on this little guy here. Because as you're blending, you're picking up some of that pigment from the other colors and you're bringing it along to, the other areas of the piece. So it's pretty much just a messy blend at this point using the sky blue light. Yep, just like I said, just going in. I know I'm quiet over here. I'm just, working and getting this all blended in. Just believe me when I say that it all will come together later on, and it will all work together. Okay, I'm going to sharpen my pencil just a tad bit because it is getting a little blunt. Not really looking for a super sharp edge because I am blending, but sometimes when you're blending and you've got a super, when the, you're using another colored pencil and you're blending and the tip of it just becomes super blunt, it just becomes harder to manipulate and drag those colors in. You guys are seeing that those lighter areas that we left alone earlier are starting to get a tinge of color now. But it's still, still serving as a highlighted area. And yes, there's still going to be some of that toothy white background of the paper showing through. We will take care of that once again with once we go into using like our blending pencil and all that good stuff. So we will get there. I guess you would call this like a preliminary blending. Preliminary blending and more addition of a little bit more color. In a random messy way, huh? There's another one of these bigger areas here. I have a feeling that I may need to go and add a little bit more darker shades of the blues in there, like the indigo, just to give it some more pigment to drag around. I'm not sure yet. I'll see what the blending pencil, what kind of magic the colorless blending pencil will give us later. So, but for now, I just want to go ahead and get all this blended in together, adding this layer on. You got that little, okay, got that little part out. There was like a little fleck of, I think was a blue, probably the indigo blue shavings that was just randomly landed on the paper or something. I'm gonna go sharpen my pencil a little bit more. Okay, continue on. I have a feeling that this part later on I might end up needing to go back and adding a little bit more of, you know, one of the darker shades of the blue that we used previously. Yeah, like I said, we'll all see how this all comes together. Now let me just take a look back and to see if I added the sky blue light into the areas that I intended, and I think I did. Let's take a look and see. And let's see, I think I will pick up my indigo blue and I'll continue to add, well, actually I'll layer in a little bit more of the other colors that I use. So let me go ahead and, yeah, because I'm just thinking that it's not quite coming out the way that I intended it to. And like I said, you know, mentioned earlier on in my videos that, you know, sometimes you'll just get that. So I am using my Throne Blue, the PC208, and just adding a little bit more pigment in here. Just because what I thought I would have been able to accomplish earlier did not actually happen, so no big deal. This is one of those things where you just kind of go in and just fix it. So I'm covering a little bit more of that white in there, and then I'm going to go back in with my violet blue. Okay. and add more of that in there, using those circular strokes just to eliminate most of those directional lines. Just layering in, just like we were doing previously with the colors, just to deepen up the color and give it the same effects as the rest of the petal as we worked on earlier. And then I'm going to go out in with my indigo blue and give it some more pigment. And I know I didn't ruin the tooth of the paper, so that's why the paper is still accepting color from my colored pencils, is because I didn't like totally use super duper pressure when adding my colors in. So I didn't ruin the tooth of the paper, I didn't smush it all, so it's still cooperating with me. Let me see, add some indigo blue over here where I told you guys earlier that I think I might need to add a little bit more pigment. And this was just one example of what I was saying earlier, that once you're towards the end process and you may tweak around a little bit with your project, with your piece, to make it all come together. This is that one example. And that's what I'm doing now. So just making that all kind of work together. I think I want to get a little bit more darker in there, so I'm coming back in with the Indothrone Blue, PC208, and just darkening up that pigment. Still using circular strokes. I'm just just adding extra layer just so that I have more pigment to work with. Because I feel that there's some areas that quite didn't get enough pigment in it, and it needs a little bit more help so that it would blend better. Okay, so let's take a look at what we can accomplish now. We're going to go ahead, I'm going to go straight for my colorless blending pencil. So I'm going to go ahead with that, and I'm just going to go and start just kind of working and blending everything together and dragging all that color out. So we'll go ahead and work on this petal here to see how that would turn out. And I am using a little bit more harder pressure than everything else that I've used for this flower. And I'm really trying to eliminate most of, if not all, the white of the background from the tooth of the paper. Trying to work that all into the paper and really blending all the colors in together. And if you noticed, either by by looking at the screen from what the camera is showing, or by looking at your own work in person, you'll notice that when using the colorless pencil, it actually intensifies all the colors together along with bringing the colors together. So that's just one of the reasons why I love my colorless blending pencil. And so far, I mean, I have tried some of the other brands of colorless pencils, the blending pencils, and so far I've always turned back to the Prismacolor ones. And I think it's just because of because it's made of wax, so it just makes the blendability a bit easier, and it just works well. So yeah, so there, that's that, earlier. And I think, see, it's like all the colors intensified. Um, the colors have been blending in well nicely with each other. All those colors that we used, the powder blue, the Indo Metho whatever blue, the PC208, that the one that I'll never be able to pronounce right, the violet blue, the indigo blue, the sky blue light. I mean, it's all coming together and it's working out. You see what I mean? Like I told you earlier, it's like, yeah, it might look like a big blob of mess at first, but once you start getting into the blending part, it just all comes together. So I'm gonna go ahead, and this is all what I'm gonna be doing right now is just focusing on getting all the colors blended into the paper and just bringing all the colors pretty much together. And like I said, like these areas that are left light, I mean, once you drag that blending pencil over those lightened areas, all the pigment that you picked up, the darker pigment that you picked up from, these areas here, are on the bottom of that pencil. So it's just pretty much dragging on that color. It's dragging it on to those lighter areas, and it still serves as a highlight. It's not, it just gives it a little bit more pigment. It gives it just a little bit more um, effect to your piece and to this, to this flower that we're coloring. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work, and it just seems, it just is, a tad bit longer than it would usually take me to do, on my own versus doing this video with you guys. Is just because I'm really trying to show, my process, and so you guys can get a hang of it, and hopefully you guys are following along and understanding my randomness. But yeah, so you see, it's just kind of all just working together with each other, and whatever tweaks that I need to do later on will kind of just come together. I'll do that, that's going to be towards the end of, the project here. Is just whatever I need to fix later on. And then you see with the blending pencil, it's just, it's help eliminating those harsher lines that were on there earlier. See? And it's all just coming together. Like I said, it's all going to come together. I think that's this is one of the things that I like about working in this Floribunda book is, it's the paper quality, like I said, and then once I get to this final blending process, the ink does not bleed, the line art, the black lines does not bleed through, and I can just blend, blend, and blend, and it won't drag any of that ink. And the paper handles, you know, my the paper handles my abuse well. And yeah, so it just kind of just works together. And one of my favorite parts of coloring and using multiple layers is this blending process. It's just seeing how a different, you know, all the different colors come together. I mean, as you can see, and this is like just like different effects. It's not just a flat colored, you know, looking flower. It's got like different effects to it. And using the blending pencil just helps get that pigment really worked into the tooth of the paper and takes care of that. So that's all I'm pretty much going to be doing for this whole flower is just bringing all everything in, blending it in with my colorless blending pencil, getting all those white parts from the background of the paper covered in, getting all that pigment worked in, really bringing those colors together. You know, softening up some of those lines, you know, those harsher lines that were in there from, you know, from adding on the layers of coloring. Just softening them up there a little bit. Just really working that paper. I have not quite mastered, you know, of because I've heard in some Facebook posts, or actually read, should I say, that once you're, you know, when you're using a blender pencil, that you shouldn't feel the need to really use so much pressure when, you know, blending the colors together. And I have not quite mastered that yet. I've tried just using a light hand, but I feel that I still end up having to press down a little bit harder, and I'm not quite sure if that's related to the type of paper that you're using, you know, the type of paper or the quality of paper. It could, you know, very well be, but I haven't quite really gotten to figuring that process out yet. It's like it's something that I really am going to have to, like, you know, sit down one day and just kind of, you know, practice with and see, you know, see for myself of, you know, different kinds of paper, you know, the ones that are available to, you know, for my use, that I can use, that I can get, and see how, and see what the different, you know, effects really are. So this piece right here, I'm just working a little bit more because I really want to get that pigment work in there and really dragging out the harsher lines, blending it in a little bit more, and just making sure everything is hunky-dory. There we go. Yeah. I'm mainly working on the outside parts at this time. No real reason. Just thought I'd just take care of the bigger, you know, petals first. You can start in the middle if you choose to. But I just want to see on how, you know, if there was going to be any more fixins that I'll need to be doing afterwards. That's kind of why I guess that would be a reason why I kind of just jumped into the bigger parts on the outside of the flower here. You know, all these bigger petals just to see, because I know I've got bigger areas of, you know, highlights that I have in these bigger petals. So I just wanted to see to make sure. So it kind of gives me an idea if I, you know, come across an area that might need a little bit of, you know, touch-ups or whatnot. Okay, let's see. Let's see what that one looks like. I think that one actually turned out pretty good, so I think I'm good with that one. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on with the rest of these guys over here, and just continue on with the same process that we have been doing using this colorless blending pencil. Working this area in here a little bit so the colors would, you know, kind of gradiate out a little bit smoother than what it appears to be. So there you go. I think that one worked okay. You guys see what I mean by what I was stating earlier about, yeah, it may look like a big old mess in the beginning, but once you start really getting all those colors together and blending them in, and it just starts, it just really just starts coming together, and it just starts to look, it just starts to look very nice, and it just all works together. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. Okay, so we're coming together here. Just gonna continue working on the outer sides of this flower, the outer petals, before I jump into working on the middle part. And this is not an official way of approaching, this flower or this page or this book. This is just the way how I approach it. There are there are many other ways on how different colorists would approach coloring this book, but this is just my way, and I'm just sharing with you how how I go about coloring this page and how I get the effects that I do when coloring in here. I mean, there is really no right or wrong way. It's what you feel like doing and how you interpret the book. There you go. I mean, it probably looks actually, I'm looking at my screen, I'm looking back and forth from my screen, and then to my, the picture in front of me, and it is showing a little bit brighter on my screen than what I'm seeing in person. So it's actually a bit, just a tad bit darker, the darker hue. So just don't be afraid of, just in case you guys are seeing that, oh, if you guys wanted your piece a little bit, you know, wanting to have a darker, shading to it, it's just the, different screens have different resolutions and stuff like that. But like what, with using the colors that I did and, working on this flower and with all the blending that I'm doing right now, it's actually darker. And it's a little, it's a bit more intense. But at least I'm pretty sure that you guys are seeing a big difference from how we were starting with just, you know, just layering in those different shades of blue into this, almost final effect of all of that. Just checking, make sure, just going over areas so that I see just a tad bit more of the tooth of the paper peeking through, and then I'll be jumping into working in the middle part. But you guys can see, the whole difference and the change and everything. Okay. See all that difference. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and just do the same thing using my blending pencil, colorless blending pencil, and just blending all the colors together here in the middle. That's really random. You tell I'm not really like paying attention to one side or another. I'm just going in and just working on it. I know it's sounding so scratchy, doesn't it? That's pretty much normal for the blending pencils. They just sound like that. They just sound so rough and everything like that, but that's just how it is. And at least with the colorless blending pencil, you don't really have to worry too much about, having a sharp edge. It actually, I feel that actually works better when the edge is a bit blunt, because it just seems to work better, for the blending purposes. It's a good thing, although my little Prismacolor blending pencil is getting closer to the end of its life here, that I did manage to pick up a 2-pack a couple of months ago. So at least I'm saved on that part. I do love my colorless blending pencil. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad that I did decide and do that. I actually had, it's like from my old job, I guess one of those, when you have like from your health insurance and you do tasks or whatever and stuff like that, and you earn bonus points and stuff like that. And I totally forgot about all that stuff. And then one day I got a letter in the mail saying that I have so and so points left over from my health insurance, that has been unclaimed and unused, and you know, and just to go log on to the website, yada yada yada, and choose which way I would like those funds to be dispersed. I mean, it was only like, a 75, it was just, it was a $75 gift card that I ended up picking. It was only, like I said, $75 amount. So, I mean, that was, still awesome to me and unexpected because, like I said, I totally forgot all about that. And so, yeah, so I decided to transform it into a gift card because, yeah, color, coloring supplies make me happy. So I just chose to, get an Amazon gift card instead. And yeah, so I used that to get myself, backup colorless pencils. Okay, so that's that part. And if you notice right here, if you guys colored it in already, no big deal. But if you notice right here that it's like super white, is that because I was at least able to distinguish that that's part of, I think, which is either a leaf or a flower that's, stemming from over here. I think it's a leaf, I'm not quite sure. I'll determine that later. But I just kind of just left that alone for now. And if later on I decide that, you know, it might be best if I just, either incorporate it, into the blueness, of this flower, or just to, see if, about if that, yeah, I think actually this is a flower, another type of flower. And I was just going to continue that on in there just so that it has that continuity. But yeah, so that's the process so far that we have done. So this is going to be the first part of this video. I know it's a tad bit long, and then we will go ahead and we will get started on part two, which will be working on the other flowers in this book. So we still got two bigger flowers on here that needs to be, got that one up here, and then we got another one down there. So, and then we'll just see how it goes from there. So, yeah, so that's what we've got so far. That's what we worked on today, and hope you guys enjoyed. And I really appreciate you guys for sticking around. And I will see you guys next time.